All right, Boker Tov. Today's daf is Ayin Vav, and we continue in the important discussion around the definition, halachic definition of a psuadak and krus shafcha. And we looked yesterday and saw that fascinatingly, well, we didn't see it, but I told you about how some of these definitions are changed radically after the time of the Gemara, or interpreted in a radically narrow way in order to allow people with these men with these conditions to marry. So Tosfos, first of all, dealing with the issue about saying that there's a difference between something that has injured or as opposed to even if it's completely removed, maybe it's okay. Rav Moshe, who basically says that even conditions explicitly mentioned in the Gemara, if we now find out that they do not lead to infertility, are not a problem, because the Gemara, in addition to describing physical aspects of it, assumes that they cause infertility. And other positions of other posts, including Rav Herzog, that says that if a medical procedure was done to deal with a medical condition, since the medical condition was bidei shemayim, that makes the whole thing considered bidei shemayim and also isn't included. Now we continue in the Gemara on the bottom of Ayin Hey Amud Bet, we're dealing with certain physical situation and determining whether they fall into that category or not. So the Gemara says like this. No, let's do like this. So it is 6 lines from the bottom on Ayin Hamud Bet. Hachi Amar Marzutra. This is what Marzutra says. Mishmei to Rav Papa. Hilchas of the halacha is ben kukumis ben kamar shera. If the penis was basically cut so that now it is either like thin and tapered, like a quill, so the thickness of it was made thinner, or whether it is hollowed out like a drain pipe. Either, but the piping is still there. Either way, kshera, it is kosher. That is so. Although one of the ideas is psua, which is like wounded, this is presumably not considered a serious enough wound. Presumably because, as the Gemara implied yesterday, that it did not lead to infertility, or that was the question whether it would or would not. So I hold that as kshera. Mi bayali. But here's my question: Lamata me'atara olamala. When we're talking about these types of injuries or whatever, cut incisions, that were done to it, are we talking about that it was done, above the corona, meaning towards the tip, or below the corona? And as you know, as I mentioned the other day, above the corona, even if it's completely severed, is okay. So the Gemara says, no, pshita de l'mala me'atara. Clearly we're talking about above, which means towards the body, not towards the tip. The isa gadai techlamata me'atara, we're talking about below, afilu nichras hagitnami, even if it's completely severed. So therefore, when we're talking about these things, and you're still, and it doesn't make somebody a psuadak, a combination of psua and whatever. Psua, okay, is not one of these problems. That's even talking about from the corona to the body. Okay, so now the Gemara says. Ravina. So that's such an obvious question. So why did he ask it? He was trying to just confuse Maramer, which hopefully doesn't literally mean confused, but he was just trying to sort of like test him. Okay. Okay. So he says, I don't know. Who Dubai? So there was a case in Mas Machasya. Shavke Mar Baravashi Kakumis Va'achshrei. So Mar Baravashi, hold on. What is it? So right. So what Rashi says this means is that what Rashi says this means is that the injury initially was like the Marzev category, but then what he did was he sort of operated on this guy and turned the Marzev's case, the funnel case, into the Kulmas case, and therefore made it kosher. Don't ask me. Moving on. Okay, so now there was a story in Pumbedisa. Istatim gufza de shechvat zera. The afik b'mokom k'tanim. So basically the passageway of the semen was stopped up, and it came out from. Now I don't really understand this.
Two ducts.
What?
One is for urine, the other is for semen.
Yeah. So this means, but how did they know?
The urine tract.
Yeah, but how do they know? Because it all comes out of the same orifice in the body. Yeah. So anyway, but I mean, Michael is correct. I just don't know how they knew. Somehow it came through the passage for the urine. So Sava Rav Bibi Barabai Lachshura. So Bibi Barabai said, okay, he's still kosher. I mean, who cares? You know, the stuff is coming out. What difference should it make? I mean, so Amar Rav Papa, so said Rav Papa, Mishum da Asumi Mulai, since you come from, Rashi says this means from a family of that's bereaved, because the Gemara says that Abai comes from base Eli, which is cursed. So Amisu Mili Mulisa. So you say like cursed things, or you say like bad things. Okay, why? 1 minute. Or Tosa says maybe it means the name of a place, but anyway, you say things that are not well thought out. When it comes out through its natural sort of place, then it gets cooked. It gets sort of heated by the body and is able to cause to inseminate. Whereas when it comes from the place from the urinary tract, then the semen will not be able to lead to fertility, will not be able to inseminate, and therefore this person is infertile. Now, of course, the funny thing about this is, okay, wonderful. So this guy is infertile, but it's not a physical injury, right? It says that somehow istatim, like somehow it was like clogged up. So are we supposed to infer from this Gemara that any type of a physical ailment that leads to infertility, or maybe that leads to, I don't know, things happening differently physically in the body? I mean, we're not talking about a low sperm count, but since when is something clogged up in the category of cut, severed, or crushed, right? So it's a little bit bizarre that even if we concede the point that the person leads to infertility, how is it the physical type of a scenario that the Gemara had described? So I don't know the answer to that. So what's your question?
It's crushed. It could be that it's closed.
Maybe it's closed because it's crushed. Yeah, okay, that's possible.
The second thing is so interesting here is there is, as I think, a source of male infertility in which the semen is too warm in the body, and it kills the semen. So here it seems to be the opposite.
That's a good point, right?
So
that is true.
The medical facts are so interesting.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Question, some people say if these things happen naturally, like a Swiss Colin, it's okay. This apparently happened naturally.
Well, that's a good point too, right? How is it istatim? That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. What does istatim mean? Yeah, so unless maybe again it's the combination of those two. Something happened that there was some physical injury that then led to it. So it wasn't bidei shamayim, and it was some physical injury. Okay. Amar Rav Yehuda Shmuel. So 3 lines from the top. Ayin Vav Aleph said Rav Yehuda Shmuel. Nikav v'nistam koshu. If there was a hole, so that would be your classic, psua. It's like a cut or a wounding. And again, presumably here we're talking about the penis, not the testicle. And then it was the type of a hole that would have been a problem, right? We talked yesterday to have to be flush, not flush, whatever. But anyway, you have this hole, and then it got filled up. So kol she'ilu, how do you determine whether that's kosher or puzzle? It's almost like the discussions you have in Rosh Hashanah about a hole in the shofar that you fill up. I'm serious. It reminds me of that. Okay. Anyway, so what's the story? So this is interesting. Somebody could be presumably a psuadaka and then could be healed from that, right? If the injury heals itself. Okay. So how do you determine whether it's considered healed or not? And again, with the Gemara, high focus on the issue of fertility. But let's take a look. Kol she'ilu nikri v'nikra pasul. If when the person ejaculates, from the word keri, has a seminal emission, it would tear, it would reopen, so it's pasul. Then it's considered that the hole is still there, and therefore it's invalid. Presumably also because it was about fertility. If that's what's going to happen when he ejaculates, so then that'll impact on the fertility. The ilav, and if that does not happen, if it does not reopen, kasher, it's kasher. So Havi Barabba. So Rabbi said, hey, ask the question, where are we talking about that this hole exists? This is going to be like what we just said before. If it's below the corona, meaning towards the tip, even severed would be okay. We must be talking about it's in the corona itself. I don't know why I can't be talking about in the gid from the corona to the body. I don't know. Itmer Nami has also said, Amarav, maybe it means even in the corona itself. Amarav Mar, but of course that's funny also because as long as there's a tiny amount of the corona left, you're okay. So it should depend which part of the thickness of the atara. Anyway, okay. Itmar Nami, Amarav Mari Bar Mar, Amar Mar Ukva, Amar Shmuel, another statement in the name of Shmuel, Nikrav Ba'atara, Atma, so specifically if there's a hole in the corona itself, was he? Nistam, and it was sealed up, sounds like it. Kochilu Nikri, Vinikra Pasul. So if when the person has seminal emission, it would tear open, it would reopen, it's invalid. Vilav kasher, and if not, it's kasher. Sholchei Rava bar Braid Rabba, Rav Yosef. So Rava, the son of Rabba, sent Rav Yosef. Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, let our master teach us. Hey Chiavdinan, how would we do this? How would we, as the rabbis, determine whether this thing will reopen at the time when the person ejaculates? Now, why don't you tell the guy, like, I don't know, look yourself? Because the problem is, what's he supposed to do? He can't have sex with his wife and then do a post-coital inspection, because the whole question is he allowed to have sex with his wife? Is he already a kushchavcha? So, well, okay, but now let's take a look. How do we inspect to determine? So, hey Chavdina, Amalei, so Rav Yosef said back, here's what we're going to do. You get some hot barley bread, and you put it by his anus, and that will lead him to ejaculate. And then we'll inspect him. So Amar Abaye, so Abaye said, Otu, Kuleyama Yaakov Avinu. What, you think everybody is like as frum as Yaakov? Have Dechsiv be Kochiv Reshit Oni, my strength and the first of my strength, virility, thank you. Meaning that Reuven, he describes it as Reuven. So Chazal say what that means is that when Reuven was conceived, that was the very first time that Yaakov had a seminal emission. He was so firm that he never had a seminal emission before he actually had sex with the first time with his wife, with Leah. Shalom ra kermi yamav. So you think everybody else is so firm that they never had, some type of a seminal emission outside of the context of sex? Meaning you don't have to do such an elaborate procedure to cause men to ejaculate. Most men are a little bit more normal and they will ejaculate with a little bit less they don't need that degree of stimulation. So Ella Amar Abaye, here's what you do. Mavirin Kamei Big Day Tzivonim. You show them very brightly colored women's garments, and that, for most people that'll be enough of a stimulant that'll cause them to ejaculate. Okay, but big day tzivonim. So Amar Rava, so I said back to him, Atu Kuleyama Barzile Hagiladiu. So the opposite question. What, you think everybody is such a lech like Barzile Hagiladi? Like, so who was a classic person who was completely immersed like in the Gemara says Shatuf Bezima, like immersed in licentiousness. So okay, maybe you don't need as radical as the barley treatment. But it's not that most people like that'll be enough. Most people need a little bit more stimulation, men, in order to cause them to ejaculate. Ella, machvarta, 1 minute, machvarta kedishnin meikara. So apparently they couldn't find some good middle category between colored garments and this drastic medical procedure. So we go back to the medical procedure. Now, what's of course fascinating about this is that here we are causing actually ejaculation in order for the purposes of for some type of a medical purpose. Now the medical purpose for the sake of a halachic determination, but why isn't the Gemara said like, oh, we're afraid that the person will have Yehurim, or what do you mean? What about Zera Levatala? So clearly, it indicates that it's not Zera Levatala because it's being done for some, for a good purpose, to medical reasons, to determine some halachic status. What about Yehurim? Well, maybe you could say the barley thing doesn't cause Yehurim; it's a completely physiological response. But the big day tzivonim presumably cause Yehurim, right? So what about that? Anyway, so it clearly seems that in the right type of a context, these things are allowed, and this is very relevant, as you can imagine, for the issue about procuring semen from a husband who. And he and his wife are having fertility problems, and sometimes you procure semen from the husband in order, not for use with another couple, but for use with him and his wife. And here, actually, it indicates that those are, that would be allowed. Now, of course, you might ask about, like, does the specifics of how you do it matter? What if it comes not naturally, but through masturbation? What if it comes through more explicit type of stimulants than just looking at colored garments? But nevertheless, it does present an interesting model for those types of questions.
Is this sugya used indeed for, in other words, there's a lot of discussion about the psychological health to adolescents around the question of masturbation.
Yeah.
So here you've got a model for anything other than the most salacious or lascivious sort of reasons for the well-being of the person.
Yeah. So it is true that this is part of that. That's that's like a bigger jump, but there are definitely the whole discussion about what constitutes livatala, and therefore how broadly can we say that something is not livatala. You are correct.
Right.
Yeah. So that's part of that conversation. That is part of that discussion. Yes. Okay. So now the Gemara says like this: Tanu Rabbanan. Nikev pasul, says if there's a hole, then again one wonders where exactly it is. Does it go all the way into the what do we call the ducts or something? I mean, it's in the penis, but anyway, here it says it's invalid because it leads to dribbling. Like the steam doesn't come out as a stream. So presumably the hole has to be in a particular place in order to make that happen.
Right.
We
already had a few niklu.
No. The Mishnah was talking about the testicles. Here we're talking about the actual penis, okay? But we've been speaking about holes until now, but we haven't been describing exactly where they are. Nistam kasher mitnei shu molid. But if it gets filled up, then, I mean, this is basically a restatement of what we said before, except it's in a braita, then it's okay, because then the person actually is able to have kids. And this is an invalidity. The person was a kus shafcha, but now he's good because it healed. Okay, so the Gemara says, so what is that excluding? Sounds like some type of analogous case, even after it healed, would remain invalid. So lin'ute, another place where holes matter, not in shofros, but other place. Krum sh'al machmas maka berea. If you have a type of a scab, thank you, right? Krum is more like whatever, close enough. If you have a scab that grows over a hole in the lung, the anal krum, that's not considered a sufficient enough covering that and healing that and therefore it's considered like the lung still has a hole, and therefore it is treif. And then, by the way, a whole issue about glot means smooth, has to do with how many of whether there are scabs in the lung or not, and is a scab, what type of a scab might be considered acceptable to seal over a hole, or whether by the existence of a scab you assume there's a hole underneath.
Yes. A scab? Is that what an abrasion is? A scab?
No, a scab is a thing that covers up over afterwards. An abrasion is the actual injury.
What's a sircha?
Yeah, sircha is a scab. Yeah, I mean, the krum is a little different. Krum is like a membrane, actually, not a scab. Sircha is more, right, so that's why I was saying scab wasn't precise. Krum is a membrane. Yes.
I don't know about animals, but looking at CTs of human lungs.
Yes.
Everybody in this room would have lots of stuff of junk on their lungs.
Right. That's why the whole issue about glot, you never get a totally smooth lung, and the question is like how much of a scab is a problem or not, and when does it start becoming a problem? That's what all the debate's about. But we'll talk about when we do chulin. Moving on. Okay, so I know we did chulin. Okay, you have to. Okay. So. Shalach le Ravidi bar Avin l'Abayis. Ravidi bar Avin sent the following inquiry to Abaye. Hey Chiyav Dinan. What do we do? Meaning, let's say a guy's got a hole, and we want to get it to close up, right? What do we do to sort of make the body, generate, sort of heal itself and close up that hole? So mycin and sarta, you take some barley, okay, back to the barley, but this is actually a barley, raw barley. What do you have? Kernel, thank you. And we scratch the area near the hole, because then you're going to get the body to start developing the scab and healing itself. Okay, so you scratch it and you basically get some blood to come out. Umycin and tarba, we take some fat. V'shaifinan, and we sort of rub it into that area, okay, and all of this is going to cause some type of a scab and some type of a filling up to come out, for the body to do to itself. Umycin shumashna gamla, we get a nice big ant.
Gamla means like big?
Yeah, like a camel-sized ant, right? We get a horsefly, we get a camel ant. Okay, we get a camel ant. Okay, umenachtinan lay, and we have it bite the area of the wound. Okay, upaskinan lay l'reishi, and then we chop off its head. Okay, and basically, as the head is there, the head of the ant is stuck into that place of the body, and as it sort of decomposes, somehow the body will then use it as raw material. I don't know, to seal up the hole. Okay.
So what does the barley use?
The barley is used to scratch. Okay. V'dafka sa'arta, and only barley. Of a parzala, but to scratch with iron, that's mizras zarif. No, that actually causes like that does not cause a scabbing. That causes like an inflammation. Okay, so actually they knew about, that iron can cause, metal can cause inflammation. Okay, v'hani mili katan, that'll only work with a small hole. Of a godo, but a big hole, mikfule mikful, it'll ultimately peel away this type of thing and it won't do any good. Amar Rabbi Baravuna, hamektu mayim mishtei mekomot, if somebody urinates from two places, not exactly sure what this means, where else the urine is coming from. What does your English say? Does it give some explanation for that?
It appears to have a hole or some other blemish.
Where, like from somewhere else in the penis other than the tip of it? Okay. So urine is
Well, here they're saying that both those two ducts, right? The urinary tract or something.
Again, I guess they want to know how did they know. Okay. Anyway, urine is so maybe you're right. Maybe somehow internally it's coming from the two ducts. That actually might make more sense since our concern here is with semen and not with urine. Okay. So if the urine is coming from two places, where are we? Puzzle. That's pasul. Again, fascinating, but okay, it's very nice that there might be something different going on with this person's body. But as we said before about the other case, A, why isn't it bidei shamayim? And B, why is it the physical injury that's being described? Unless, again, you say that this is as a result of some type of physical injury. Anyway, pasul. Amarav le'silchasa. The halacha is not lo kivra, not like the son, the Rabbi Bar Rav Huna, who just said this. That is not pasul. Why not? I don't know. Either because it doesn't cause infertility, or for the reasons we said, bidei shamayim, etc. V'lo ka'aba, and neither do we rule like a statement of his fathers. So braha da amrin, the son, we said the statement about the urine from two places. We don't rule like that. Abba, the father, Damar Rav Huna, says Rav Huna, noshim hamisola zob psulot. Women who are intertwined one with the other, rub against one another, seems clearly to be talking about lesbian sex. Are psulot lekahuna, are invalid for kahuna. Now, what does that mean? They're invalid for kahuna. Rashi says it means kohen gadol, that somehow it's a problem in the concept of like besula, right? It's interesting how halacha deals with the issue about lesbian sex, since halacha really only recognizes, not here, but in another place. Tosfos quotes it. Because there's parallel in this Gemara, because the halacha only understands of sex as requiring basically as a penile penetration, either anal or vaginal. So therefore, when you're dealing with only women, it can't halachically be considered to be sex. So whatever, it leads to very fascinating issues about women's perspective about how whatever. It's larger feminist issue here going on here. But anyway, so raises an interesting halachic point about what are you going to do with this? I mean, you can't actually call it sex. So Rashi understands that, okay, but might not be sex, but she's not exactly a basula. Okay, so that's how Rashi understands what that means. Tosa says it's actually trying to say that pasul for a normal kohen, that it falls into the category of zona, which also raises interesting questions about the idea of the category of zona for type of sexual behavior that the Gemara sees as improper, but that again is not technically halachically sex. So that's his statement. Then the Gemara says we don't rule that way. They're not psulos l'kahuna. The feel Rabbi Linzer, the Amar, even Rabbi Linzer, who says that any type of improper sexual activity, even if it's not being transgressing necessarily a clear prohibition, even if it's just extramarital sex, single man, single woman, and so on, that's enough to constitute an aspect of zinus. That might be true, but there, hanimili ish. That's when you're dealing with a man, and therefore you're dealing with actually halachically defined sex. So what he's saying is, you've got an act of halachically defined sex. It's just that it's not clearly transgressing an isser. Nevertheless, it could still be znus. Okay, but that's when you're dealing with that. Isha, when you're dealing with two women, pitzusa ba'alma, you can't call it halachically sex, and therefore you can't make it considered a znus or a non-basula, and therefore it's just like licentious behavior, but it's not zinus. So this is a fascinating Gemara, as you could imagine, nowadays in particular, when with aspects about LGBT and inclusion and so on, and how sort of halacha deals with gay men, how halacha deals with gay women, etc. And it raises interesting questions. On the one hand, similar to other areas, like we've been dealing with questions about attitudes towards masturbation and hirhurim and so on, where halacha usually has less to say to forbid when you're dealing with women than with men. And so on the one hand, you could say, okay, it's not as restrictive. On the other hand, you could say it's not as restrictive because it doesn't give any weight to those types of things, right? It only gives weight to an act of sex that involves the male genitalia, and so on. So it's interesting. By the way, you can have halachic sex with two men, right? That's the biblical prohibition about homosexuality, right? So you need the man to be defined as halachic sex. You need the man for there to be a problem of zera levatala. You might need the man for there to be a problem of yerhurim. So it raises interesting questions about halacha, which is more lenient when it comes to women, but often because women aren't really on the radar screen.
So two questions. If a married woman did this, would that be a halacha adultery? I guess not, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then the other is, maybe you discussed this yesterday, but it's a little early. What do we rule in terms of all this? Like, we rule that naturally it's not a problem if this happens. And
what do we rule? Whatever. A lot of this development is after the Gemara. Yes, we certainly rule bidei shamayim is not a problem. But the fascinating development, you weren't here yesterday, and I don't know when you came in this morning, but I reviewed it. But the bigger chiddush is the type of things that Rav Moshe and Rav Herzog says, the things that result from a natural condition, even if then a medical procedure was done, is what Rav Herzog says, or what Rav Moshe says is like, anything that we know doesn't cause infertility, even if it's in the categories of the Gemara, would actually not be a problem. Those are like a lot of major kulas that develop after the Gemara.
There's one last question.
Yeah.
You can't make a woman a sota then by saying you can't be misiachet with this woman?
No, but there is interesting questions how halacha deals with that. Okay, let's take a look. Suadaka. Now that we've got through that fun Gemara about describing the physical condition itself, let's talk about a halachic aspect. Man who's in this category of psuadaka kushafcha, mutarin b'giyodim mishuchreres, can marry a woman who is not who is not born Jewish, a woman who converted or who was a freed slave, so not born Jewish. The only prohibition is to marry into the community, which means naturally born Jews. Again, it's nice to have these leniencies, but I always find it very challenging because the whole idea of a convert is right, kager ke'ezrach, and then when there retains areas in which a ger is not considered to be as like in the primary sort of categorization. It's like we saw Gemara earlier about Tumas Yoledes, that you needed an extra word to say it also applies to a Gioret. Anyways, that's going to be a recurring theme here, that Gerim and Meshuchrarim are not considered in the primary Kahal. They cannot come into the Kahal, and some of there's the assumption that therefore a Gioret who is not born Jewish is not considered in that category. Okay, so that's the leniency. So by my name, Rav Sheshes, ask Rav Sheshes, Psuadaka Kohen Mahu B'Giores. Can a Psuadaka Kohen marry a Giores Umishuchreres? Okay, now we've already learned from an earlier Mishnah, you might remember, this is how we got onto this category, that a Psuadaka Kohen can eat Truma. The fact that he's a Psuadaka doesn't affect his ability, he's still considered a Kohen. Can he do the avoda? Probably not. It might be a balmum, but he can eat truma. He still has kedushas kohen. So if he still has kedushas kohen, why would he be able to marry a gioret? So the point is, yes, for truma he has his kedushas kohen, but since when it comes to issues of marriage, he's excluded from marrying within the kahal, maybe therefore that should open up the opportunities for him to marry the types of people he's normally restricted against. Okay, so it's a fascinating question. We're not saying he totally doesn't have his kedusha. Since when would a physical injury stop him from having kedushas kahuna? But what it does is it takes him out of the marriage categories of the marriage of kahal. Maybe that opens up for him all the other opportunities.
But they didn't say, let's say, grusha. So is that?
Yeah, because a grusha would be somebody that he can't marry even as a psuadaka. But the women that he's allowed to now marry as a psuadaka, the women that are now, now of course, normal.
Everything is okay.
Right. So right. Good clarification. Mahu. Okay. He still retains his kahuna restrictions of marriage, his kedusha, va'asir, and he's forbidden. Or maybe, like as Michael properly clarifies, for the women that now he is restricted to marry, he can't marry, with the people that are considered in the kahal. He can marry people that are specifically identified as outside the kahal. That's also the point, Michael, which is that a grusha is not outside the kahal, right? A woman who's identified as outside of the kahal So maybe since he's restricted against the Kahal, maybe he's given, he's now free to marry anybody who's outside that category, and these types of restrictions of marriage would not apply. Okay. Fine. V'shari. Amalei Rav Sheshes is 22 us. Rav Sheshes said we taught it. So, you understand the problem if you say that he's usher, is then he has nobody left to marry. Right. So anyway, so you can see the little letter here. The Rambam, at least, that we actually pass him that he can marry a Gioret. So it actually does open that up. Okay.
What's the further restriction on a Kohen Gadol?
Basula and a non-Almana. Amalei Rav Sheshes 22. Rav Sheshes said we taught it. P'tua Daka Yisrael mutter ben Asina. A P'tua Daka Yisrael can marry an Asin. Now, an Asin is somebody who is from the Givonim, from one of the original sort of Canaanite nations, who then converted. They tricked Yoshua and they converted. Okay, so. If being a P'tua Daka, now we're going to make an analogy to what the story is by Yisrael, because the same way a Kohen can't marry a Gioret, Yisrael can't marry somebody from the Shiva Amimim. And here, once he's a P'tua Daka, he's allowed to. If he retains his kedusha, it should be you're not allowed to marry somebody from the Shiva Amimim. So it shows once somebody's a P'tua Daka and excluded from the Kahal, other people who are not in the Kahal but would be allowed to be married, and restrictions would go off for them. So Amar Rava Otu. 1 minute, said Rava. Hasamishim kedusha v'la kedusha is the reason you don't marry the Nesinim, because of a sense of like yes kedusha or not kedusha. Dilma Moli Ben. Let's you have to sort of hear this whole thing through to understand it. Maybe the concern is by lo sitatin ban. Why? Because so it's all a concern about having kids and leading after avodah zarah. Now who cares? Well, I like lo tashin and time at the kra. Whatever. You're not supposed to marry Shiva Samim. No, it matters because of the second stage, the rabbinic stage. So let's take a look. So biblically, it's forbidden to marry the Shiva Samim while they're still non-Jews. Kimi Gairi, but Mishra Shari or Yisrael, when they convert, then they're permitted. So now, the idea that you can't marry Shiva Samim even after they converted is rabbinic. And when did the rabbi say don't marry them after they've converted? Only by people that could have kids, because since they understood that that was what was behind the biblical mitzvah, when they said we don't want you marrying Shiva Samim even after conversion, it's when kids were in the equation. But somebody who's a krus shafcha p'tua daka who can't have kids, it doesn't fall into the rabbinic category. So that's a very elaborate explanation. But basically what he says is you can't prove anything there. There we're dealing with a rabbinic restriction. We're not dealing with a biblical one. We're dealing with somebody that biblically is permissible because they converted. The only problem is rabbinic. So fine, we'll allow it for somebody who's a p'tua daka, okay? Because we're not so concerned anyway. They're not going to have kids anyway. What's the big deal? Okay, but that's rabbinic. You can't use that to prove the issue of a kohen b'gioret, okay? Which is actually interesting because there's some debate whether Gioret is biblical or rabbinic or not. Anyway, yes.
So this is obviously on the side that you're allowed to make peace with them because, right, there are two sides of this, right? You got to kill everybody. You got to kill.
Yeah, we're not dealing with making peace. Doesn't matter. This person, we're no longer at war with them. Whatever. We're not dealing with what Yoshua did. Okay, so now the Gemara says like this. Elameata. So you can't prove anything from that. Elameata mamzer debaulude hachanami da'asa. You say, oh, the whole thing is rabbinic, and we're going to allow it by the Nesinim because you can't have kids. So mamzer can have kids. We should forbid him to marry a Nesin. Vatnan, we turn to Mishnah. It should actually be or alamat. Okay, Vatnan, mamzer Nesinim utarm lavos ebezeh, that a mamzer can marry a Nesin. So obviously, it cannot be based on whether you can have kids. Ella, fine. Kigos rabbanim b'ksherim, b'psulim lo gazer. Fine, whatever. So the rabbi said. It's fine, but it's still rabbinic. So give a different reason. They don't want people marrying in a sin, but if somebody anyway is puzzled, maybe you could also say again, like a little affirmative action or whatever. Somebody is puzzled, so they don't have too many options anyway, so they let them marry the Nesinim. Fine, but bottom line is the story of Nesinim is rabbinic. And therefore, whatever we do to be more lenient by Nesinim doesn't prove anything by the case of Gioret. Okay, that's the basic answer. Hadam Rava, then Rava said, Lav Mil Sehidamri. You know what? It wasn't right what I said, that I framed the whole thing as rabbinic and therefore said it wasn't relevant. Why? Because I said that biblically marrying Shiva Samim was when they were non-Jews, and rabbinically it extends even when they converted. It's not true. Biblically, we're talking that it's forbidden even when they converted. How do I know that even biblically it's usher when they converted? Biyosan of the kochavim leislu chasnus, because when they're still non-Jews, it wouldn't say lo tischatin bam, because you it might say don't have sex with them, but it wouldn't say don't marry them. Okay, their marriage wouldn't be binding. So these gairu islu chasnus only when they converted. So clearly the Torah is saying don't marry them even after they converted, and nevertheless we allow a psuadaka and a mamzer to marry them. So you see that once psuadaka and mamzer are excluded from marrying Kahal Hashem, opens up other people that are not in Kahal Hashem that might have other problems. But once they're excluded from Kahal Hashem, these become legitimate and acceptable. So therefore, the same is true by a Kohen, that even though there you're not talking, even though he has a special kedushat kuna, nevertheless, once he's excluded from Kahal Hashem, these other people open up. Okay, so now the Gemara says like this. Masiv Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef asked him this, how could you say that the Torah wouldn't say lo tischatein unless it was talking about after conversion? But it says vayischatein Shlomo es bas Paro melech Mitzrayim. Shlomo married bat Paro.
Wow.
So
she didn't convert.
So the Gemara says, Giri Gaira. All right, he converted her. Lo keep the game, lo be made David, lo be made Shlomo. What do you converted her? Don't we know that they didn't accept converts in the time of David and Shlomo because it was assumed to be for ulterior motives? So the Gemara says, right. The only reason they didn't accept converts was they thought that people were doing it to be part of the king's table, meaning because that's when the Jews had it good. So they were suspicious of ulterior motives. Lo tzricha. It should be law, not lay. Anyway, by Bas Paro, she didn't need Shulchan Malachim. She came from Shulchan Malachim, so therefore she was converted. Okay, so the Gemara says the Tepich La Lay Da Mitzvah Rishonahi. Gemara says, I still don't get how Shlomo was allowed to do it. That's why Tosfos understands the question. She's a mitzrit. Yeah. And it says, Lo Yavo, Lo Yavo Mitzri. What is it? Lo Yavo, what's the pasuk? Lo Yavo Mitzri. Ador, no. Dor Shlishi Yavo Lahem Bikal Hashem. Lo Yavo.
Right. Lo today was a me.
Then I think Banim I share Yavol Lahem Dor Shlishi Yavo Lahem Bikal Hashem. It's not even a lo say. It's just an asay. Yeah, you're probably right. It's a lafa b'an miklal asay. Okay. Anyway, so the Gemara says, "V'teiviklei da mitzvah rishonahi." She's a mitzvah of the first generation, and only third generation is allowed.
When we say first generation, we mean like if a mitzvah converts, right?
If a mitzvah converts, their grandkids can marry in.
Right. So he's not taking it to mean that mitzvah rishona is the time of
from the time of conversion. Okay, so the Gemara says, maybe the people currently living in Egypt are not the Mitzrim in the Torah, which actually we know to be the case, right now, certainly. They're not the original, Mitzrim. But anyway, so maybe the Mitzri that Shlomo married was not the Mitzri from the time of the Torah. And that would have even been before Sancheirov came and was Mevalbo the Umot. That was the time of Shlomo. The Gemara says, no, they are still the same Mitzrim. That we turn to the Brisa. Amar Rav Yehuda, said Rav Yehuda, Menimin ger Mitzri hayali chaver mitamidi Rabbi Akiva. I had a colleague, Menimin, who was a Mitzri convert from the students of Rabbi Akiva. And Amran, he said to me, Ani Mitzri Rishon, I am a first generation convert of a Mitzri. V'nasati Mitzri Rishona, and I married a woman who converted as a Mitzri's first generation. Asi livnai Mitzrit shni'ah. I will have my son marry a second generation Mitzrit. Kedei she ben b'ni. So my grandson will be Roy Lavo Bika, will be a third generation and permitted. So there you see it's a number of generations from the time of conversion. It's also very significant that he says, I'll have my son marry a second generation, because the halacha here is by Yehochin Achar Hapsul. That if you had a first generation married a second generation, you wouldn't marry who's the male, who's the female. The child is considered second generation. Okay, you always go by the more problematic status. So you would need a second generation to produce a third. You could also have a second generation marry a third generation, produce a third, but you got the idea. Anyway, the point being that he's considering himself to be a halachic mitzri, even though that was way after the case of Shlomo. That was even after Sancheirov came and was mevalbel the umot. Now, so you see, we're dealing with real mitzrim. I'll tell you what Tosfos says about that in a minute, but let's just see what the Gemara's answer is. Amar Rav Papa, so said Rav Papa, Anan mi Shlomo leikav nisif. We're going to start worrying about Shlomo. So Shlomo lo nasiv midi. Now you would have said maybe Shlomo was transgressing, but that's what it said. Shlomo didn't really get married to them. Okay, lo nasiv midi. So the Gemara says he slept with them, he had sex with them. He didn't really marry Bas Paro. So the Gemara says, "Tichsi Bey, so Tichsi Bey." It says by Shlomo, "Mino goyim asher amar Hashem." We'll get there. Mino goyim asher amar Hashem b'nei Yisrael lo savo behem, from the nations that God said, do not enter among them. Ve'hein lo yavo b'chem, and they shouldn't come among you, meaning don't intermarry. Achein yatu asalavchem, they will turn your heart astray. Acharei Elohem, after their gods. Bahem davak Shlomo le'ava. And them, God, Shlomo cleaved for love. So it says, he says he cleaved to love them. He lusted after them. He loved them. He didn't marry them. Okay, so the Gemara says, Elakasha, right. First of all, it raises an interesting issue that we have sort of mentioned a number of times, but have not concretized because it's not always explicit, which is the relationship of these isurim that are about marriage to issues about sex. Right? Like, for example, krus shafcha, if you remember, the Mishnah said, if a condition happened after marriage, the woman doesn't come puzzle until she has sex with him, right? So clearly sex is part of the prohibition, right? Let's say there's a krus shafcha that has sex with a woman not in the context of marriage, right? Let's say it's just about sex. Let's say a Kohen has sex with a Grusha, not in the context of marriage, right? Is it about marriage and sex? Is it just about marriage? Is it whatever? So here, for example, the Gemara says, by the Mitzri problem, he wasn't married. That makes it okay. Right? So A, that's just interesting halachically. I mean, we would have said also, like, A, is it morally okay? Is it proper? B, right, who says that Shlomo is actually following that mitzvah? But it is fascinating that the Gemara makes it seem that halachically, at least by the issue of the Mitzri, right, it is lavo bikal Hashem requires the issue of marriage. However, from the Mishnah, we saw about the krus shafcha, it also had the aspect of having sex in order for the woman to become puzzle. Right? So it's interesting, the combination of those two. Anyway, that's 1 minute. That's the Gemara's answer. That Gemara says that he didn't actually marry them. So the Gemara says, Elakasha vayischatein, but it says that he married. Okay, mitoch ava yisera she'ahava, because of the great love that he loved Baspara. No, because of ilu nischatein ba. It was like they were married. It was a civil law marriage, with a common law marriage. They were so bound together. They were soulmates. But they weren't technically married. Dov, you had a question?
What's the lashon of Leikum?
Should we get up and ask a question from Shlomo?
Leikum is like,
like exactly. Leikum. Right.
The Navi does.
Right. Oh, what are you going to do? Now, Tosos, by the way, says, long Tosos here, but I just want to read you one line. Let's look at the very beginning of Tosos. He says, V'im Tomer minimin ger mitzri. So Tosos says, V'im Tomar v'lama lo haya muter lavo b'kav lo ein mitzriim bin koman shekvar olasan chevu b'bekol olam. Meaning, maybe by Shlomo they were still the same mitzriim, but by now we assume everybody has been displaced. Sanchev came and moved whole populations, and the general assumption is that we assume that people are not in their original country. So you could say maybe this guy didn't come from Mitzrayim. Anyway, he says, and then he says like this, and then he quotes a Tosefta, and he says like this. Hold on. Now, do you see where it says like the Kudris, the line that starts with the word Kudris, about 10 lines down?
Yeah, Kuntris.
Yeah, he says, it was so the Pirush Bekuntris, the Tanya B'Tosefta, She'amar lo Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva said back to him, Manimin, Ta'ita, Manimin, you made a mistake. Shekvar alas and chayvu b'bekol ha'olam. Says, you're thinking that you're a Mitzri, but you're not a Mitzri. The Mitzrim now, people living now, are not the original Egyptians, are not the original Mitzrim. So anyway, quite fascinating, while the Gemara insists that they are the original, not only in Shlomo's time, but in the time of Reb Yehuda, tells us as an extended discussion that, and for halachic purposes, we assume that certainly after the period of Sancherev, post-Shlomo, but by end of Bayit Rishon time, where we assume that nobody is in their original place. Yes?
Does the Tosefta that we have today actually...
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to check it. Okay, back to the Gemara.
So it was okay then to then have this? Is that what they were saying? That
Shlomo did not transgress because he wasn't married to them. That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying before. That on the one hand, the Mishnah says that marriage itself is not a problem. That you need to have sex, at least for the woman's status to change. That was by the Psua Daka. And here it's saying that sex itself is not a problem. It needs to also be with the context that it also needs to be marriage.
It was interesting because the whole, the Gemara in Sanhedrin that wanted to eliminate Shlomo for Olam Haba.
Right.
Right. So then, this is
what can I tell you? Right. Exactly. Well, we're always doing that. Okay. By the way, though, this discussion of is it about marriage or sex is about the lotas, like the things that are just simple lotases. The Psua Daka, Mitzri, Ammoni, Moavi, those types of cases. Grusha to a Kohen. By the cases of the Kares, the things about what do you call it? The incest cases, that's clearly just about sex. Of course, anyway, there can't even be about marriage. Marriage isn't even binding in those cases. Okay, anyway, back to the Gemara.
Marriage wouldn't be binding in these cases?
Yes, it would. It's only an Isser Lav. At most, it's an Isser Lav. Okay, so Amalei Ravina Ravashi said Ravina to Rashi. So basically, the conclusion so far has been, since it seems that a psuadaka is mutter b'nesin, where it seems to be we're going to argue, and similarly, therefore, a psuadaka kohen will be mutter b'giores. That seems to be where the Gemara is going, and that's basically how we paskin, believe it or not. So Ravina said to Ravashi, but didn't we teach psuadaka kushachla mutarim b'giores m'shuchreres, that they're mutter b'giores m'shuchreres, habenesina asira, so it only mentions giores m'shuchreres, which are anyway mutter to a normal Jew. So it doesn't say they're mutter by a sin. The only prohibition is to marry somebody who's in the kahal. Sharu, presumably somebody who's not in the kahal is permissible. You can't learn anything from the Mishnah. And the basic principle is that not only for Yisrael do we say that if you're in a category that you're asr b'kahal, like psuadaka or mamzer, etc., you're mutter for those types of people that are Jewish but usher for other reasons, like the case of, Nisin and Mamzer and so on, but also even a Kohen, once he's usher b'kahal, actually becomes mutter, mutter b'giores. Yes.
Were the Givonim still around in the time?
I highly doubt it. Well, yeah, right. The Nisin is probably right. One wonders. It sounds from the Gemara that it's not talking about it as a hypothetical category. It sounds from the Gemara like it does have some group that's identified as Nisinim. Okay, let's keep on going. Let me just actually see if I can read you in 2 seconds the halacha from the Shulchan Aruch. Here's Shulchan Aruch. Siman Hey Sif Aleph in Ebenezer. Psuadaka kus shafcha asurin lisa Yisraelit umut yorm begiyaret u'mishuchreres dafilu kohen shu psuadaka mutter lisa giyaret u'mishuchreres lefi she'ena b'kedushato. Okay. Dafilu nesino echad misfekos mutaros lo ho psuadaka asal v'bekal lo gazwal nesinim v'lo asfekos. Aval aser b'mamzeres v'da'it. So we're going to learn that in the sin and a mamzer are mutter zebezeh, right? And mamzer is also bikal Hashem. So here's an interesting question: can a psuadaka, right, marry a mamzeres?
Yes.
Some even say yes to that, right?
Also, like it makes this huge leap. Like today, the reason why kedushin between a Jew and a non-Jew is not chal is only the rabbanan.
Well, correct. No, it's not chal deoraisa. You mean the reason it's aser?
Yeah.
Reason it's usher. So that's a question. Is lo titchatin bam only about shivas amamim, or is it about all non-Jews? So that is a question. Well, right. Is it all non-Jews? Exactly. So what's the scope of the deoraisa lo titchatin bam? Right, but it's not binding deoraisa because that's just with a non-Jew. Oh, it's not because of the Isser that it's not binding. Okay, so a normal lav still would be binding, like a kohen and a grusha and so on. Next Mishnah. Now we're done with psuadaka. Ammoni and Moavi, Asurim, Yisur and Yisur Olam. And Ammoni and Moavi are forbidden and forever. It's not like a Dor Shlishi or a Dor Asiri. Gam Dor Asiri lo yavo. Right, yeah. Well, right. We're dealing with but the question is, as we just talked about by the Givonim and the Nisinim, etc., and Los Ischatim, and the Mitzri, presumably mean even if they convert, they remain usher to marry, right? That's like what we just had by the Mitzri. Right, a Jew, right? That gets it. Right, that gets to the Kahal Hashem issue, exactly, just like we talked about by the Mitzri. Aval Nikvoseyan, their females mutarot miyad are immediately permissible as soon as they convert. Okay, right. So Mitzri vadomi, a Mitzri and an Edomite, in Masrim ela ad shlosha darot, until 3 generations, right? Dor shlishi yavo lam bikal Hashem. Whether males or females. So the chiddush is that even females, though, have to wait 3 generations. So it's right. It's ironic. The Ammoni and Moavi that are more strict, that are never can marry into somebody who was born Jewish, or isn't in this kahal category. Nevertheless, the females are mutter immediately. Reb Shimon Matas and Akevas Miyad. Reb Shimon says that Mitzri and Adomi is just has the same leniency as Ammoni and Moavi, that the females are immediately permissible. I'm Reb Shimon Kavachomer Advar. It's a Kavachomer. Uma in b'makom she'aser says Zachari Maser Yisur Olam, where the males are forever forbidden. Ammoni and Moavi, Heter and Kavos Miyad, the females are immediately permissible. So Makom Shelo Aser says Zacharim Ela Ad Shlosh Dara, the place where the males are only forbidden for 3 generations, the Mitzri and the Adomi. Eno Din Shenatir and Kavos Miyad. Certainly, we should allow the females immediately. They said back to him, if you have a tradition, we'll accept it. But if you want to argue it, yesh tshuva, we have a response to that. And it doesn't say what the response is. We'll see in the Gemara, but we don't buy your kavachomer. We'll accept it if it's a tradition. We don't buy your kavachomer. Amalem Loki, he said, no, halachani omer. I'm telling you that besides my logical argument, I actually do have a tradition. Okay, whether in the end they really accepted his tradition, we'll see. Yes, Rabbi Dov.
Is this correct to say this is a very unusual Mishnah? The Kal V'chomer and then a response.
Right. You do sometimes have midrash halacha in it, but this is not just midrash halacha. There's almost like a back and forth type of a thing. Yeah, but yes, it is interesting, but it is not like it does happen. It's right. Okay. Minani Mili. Where is this from? The idea that that a female Ammonite and Moabite is mutter miyad. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan to Amar Kra, the verse says, V'chirot Shaul et David yatzei likrat. Right, I know. So we're gonna work backwards from David. That root must have been okay. V'chirot Shaul et David yatzei likrat haplishti. When Shaul saw David going to confront the Philistine, Goliath. Amar el Avner Sar Tzava, he said to Avner, his general, Ben Mizeh, the son of who is this kid? Whose kid is this? Avner. Vayomer Avner, and Avner said, Chai nafshecha melchi medat. He said, I don't know. So Gemara says, what? The lo yada? Right, I don't know. That's it. God knows if I know, which means I don't know. The lo yada le? What do you mean? Avner didn't know who David was? Vaksiv, vayehaveu meod, vayilo no sekelim. What do you mean? He was his armor bearer. Ella avur kamisha. Okay, no. So what David? No, but what Shaul said is, whose son is this? So he wanted to know who the father was. And maybe Avner didn't know the father. Well, how could he not have known the father? But it says by Yishai, the man, meaning Yishai, in the time of Shaul was very old. He was coming among men. What does that mean? Which is clear in the pasuk. Whenever he would come in and go out, he would have like tens of thousands of people following him. Okay, so therefore, obviously, Avner must have known who he was. Rashi says that he was the head over 600,000. Yishai. So anyway, so bottom line is, of course, Avner knew who Yishai was. So what does he mean? I don't know who I'm sorry, Shaul. Thank you. Shaul, man. Yeah. Sorry. Shaul knew who he was. So it says, so Hachi Kama Shaul. So this is what Shaul is saying. So why is Shaul asking Avner? How could it be that Shaul didn't know who he was? I mean, this is the same David that was, whatever, exactly, his own personal attendant who carried his, armor, right? I'm sorry, I was confusing with Avner before, and right, well, exactly. How could he not know? And how could he not know who Yishai was? So, Hachi Kamar Shaul. So this is what Shaul was saying. Imifritz us, imi parrots asi, imi zerachas. No. I know whose son he is. Here's what I'm asking about him. I want to know what his lineage is. Does he come from Peretz, because he's from Yehuda, or does he come from Zerach, right? So those are the two strands of Yehuda. Imi Peretz Asiv is coming from Peretz Malchahave. Then I'm concerned, because that's an indicator that he's going to be a king. Why? Shamelech Poretz Lasosterech Ve'ememachim biyado. Because as we're going to teach 1,000 years from now, a king bursts forth, and he makes his own pathway and nobody can stop him. So Peretz means like no limits, unlimited power and privilege and so on. So therefore, that indicates that he's going to be a king, and then I have to be jealous of him. And it's coming from Zerach. So Zerach is like shining. He'll have some status, but he's not going to be a king. And he's not going to threaten me, exactly. So my timer. So okay. Now my timer. Amle Shalile. So that's why Shaul was asking Avner about him. But what was motivating him? Where was he? Why was he all of a sudden concerned that his position was threatened? Because this was saying, wait a minute, this was saying when he was going out to confront Goliath before he actually had victory. Yeah. So already the way we're now reading what's going on is that Shaul's already feeling threatened. What is making him feel threatened already at this stage? So Dichsiv, let me just get a little further. Dichsiv, Vayobash Shaul es David Madav. That Shaul cloaked David with his clothes. So Madav means Timidasa. That David fit them. It was according to his measurements. And it says by Shaul, from his shoulders above, he was higher than the whole nation. So, if David was as sort of tall and good looking as him and whatever, he felt very much threatened. It's fascinating because here just by the physical aspects, but you can understand that. He's handsome, he's tall, he's good looking, he was very threatened by him. So Amarle, so he tells Avner, so yes, David was his attendant. David was the son of Yishai. He knew all these things, but he wanted to know: does he come from a potentially royal stock or not? How threatened do I have to be? Amarle Doag. So Doag said to him, Adomi, you're so concerned whether he's from royal stock or not. I've got a better way of sort of disqualifying him. So maybe he's not even fit for being a Jew or fit for marrying, not fit for being a Jew, but fit for just he doesn't have even the basic yichus for fit for marrying among the kahal. My timer, because he comes from Ruth the Moabite. Amalei Avner, so Avner said back, Tanina, Amoni v'lo Amonit. Moavi v'lo Moavit. What do you mean? We've got a brisa that we're going to teach 1,000 years from now that's going to say only the males and not the females. So that's not a problem. Elameata. So says back to him, presumably Doag, Doag is the enemy of David, the troublemaker. So Doag says back, oh, you're going to say that, but then we should say mamzer v'lo mamzeres. So then we should allow even a female mamzer. No, mamzer ksiv mumzar. That means that there's some, problematic blemish because of the forbidden sex. That's not limited to male or female. So okay, but he says, so then say mitzri v'lo mitzris. Why don't we say the same thing about the Egyptians, right? Which actually is what Rabbi Shimon said. So I don't know. He said, why didn't you say a pastor like Rabbi Shimon? Oh, he says no. Shani hachadim the first time of the crop. No. Here's what entitles us to make this drasha of amoni v'lo amonit, moavi v'lo moavit. Because they didn't come out to you to greet you with bread and water. That's why not the Ammoni and the Moavi. That's only something you can hold against the men. The men are the ones that go out and it's funny, very funny. Whenever you see the things like, on the movies or whatever, somebody, comes to the town. It's the women that are coming out and bringing out the fruit. All right, but somehow we say the men should have been the one to come out, not the women. So only the men are the ones that are being held responsible. So Doag said, I don't buy that answer. Let the women come out. Men should greet the men and women should greet the men. And women should greet the women. Ishtik. So Avner was silenced. So Doag now is basically saying, Shaul, you don't have to worry about him. He's disqualified. He descends from Ruth HaMoaviyah. So, and Avner is not so sure that he is disqualified. So Vayomer Melech Sha'al Ata Ben Mizeh Ha'elem. So now Shaul says, okay, so go investigate about him. Okay, so now by the way, that's like in the Pesukim, it says it twice, once when he's going out, another time when he's coming in. So now the Gemara says, Hasam karile nar, hacha karile elam. When he asked the first time, he calls him a nar. Here he calls him an elam. Now we would say those are interchangeable, but the Gemara is going to do a cute thing with this. Hachi amarle. This is what Shaul says. So the halacha is hidden from you. I mean, Avner didn't know the answer to Doag's question. Avner felt pretty confident that he was okay, but Doag asked some pretty good questions. So Shaul is saying this law is hidden from you. Say v'shal b'veis hamedrash. Go and ask about him in the beis medrash. At this stage, it's not clear to me if he's talking to Avner or to Doag. I think it sounds like he's talking to Avner because Avner was the one that was nishtate. But we're going to see that when they get to the beis hamedrash, Doag is there with him to create problems. So let's just read one more line. Shaul b'veis hamedrash. Shaul. So he asked in the beis medrash, Amrulei, Amoni v'lo Amonit, Moavi v'lo Moavit. They told him exactly what he had been saying. David is not going to be a problem. Actually, Doag, but Doag was there in the beis medrash, and he challenged everybody. Kol ani kush yaisa. What do you mean? I mean, you can't say that because you don't say it by Mitzri and Ishtatu. So everybody in the beis medrash was silenced by Doag. So Bayilach Ruzei said he wanted to make an announcement and say, David is pasul. No, but people are trying to tell us that he's okay. It's from Ruth HaMoavit. No, they can't prove their point. David is pasul. Miyad, then Vamasha ben Ish v'Shmo. And so we'll have to find out how David's reputation and lineage was defended, salvaged when we come back tomorrow. All right, we will find out if David was really a legitimate king of Israel.